Hi, welcome to Wife Her Live. My name is Chana, and I am a member of the Wife Her Core team, and I have the honorable task of introducing our guest presenter for Wife Her Live tonight. Our topic for tonight is called A is for Autism, Understanding the Autism Spectrum. And our special guest is a certified autism specialist. Her name is Miss Shenika McIntosh. And I'm going to read Miss McIntosh bio for us. Miss McIntosh holds a Bachelor of Science in Human Occupation with a minor in psychology from DeUville College that she obtained in 2010. She also received a Master of Science in Occupational Therapy from DeUville College in Buffalo, New York in 2011. She's a certified autism specialist working with children on the autism spectrum for more than 5 years. She has extensive experience in both physical rehabilitation, neurological rehabilitation, and pediatrics, having both worked in the United States of America and the Bahamas. She was employed at Princess Margaret Hospital, Nassau, Bahamas, in acute care, physical rehabilitation, and neurodevelopmental center for almost 5 years. In 2016, Ms. McIntosh established Occupational Therapy Consulting Services, a consulting firm that evaluate and treat children with neurological disorders, learning, developmental, and intellectual disabilities in the Bahamas. The firm also provides training and consultancy services to medical professionals, teachers, and civic groups. Ms. McIntosh is the president of the Occupational Therapy Association of the Bahamas. She's the vice president of the Association of Caribbean Occupational Therapists and serves as the Bahamian delegate for the World Federation of Occupational Therapy. She's an honorary member of Pi Theta Epsilon, a scholastic honor society that recognizes achievement in the field of occupational therapy. She's an athletic coach for the Bahamas Special Olympics program, where she trains athletes with intellectual disabilities in track and field events. Ms. McIntosh also enjoys traveling, swimming, and exploring new foods. So one thing I want to say before we get started, we do encourage interaction. So if you have any questions, please post your questions there in the comments, and Ms. McIntosh will do her best to get to them before the end of the night.
A is for Autism. The month of April of each year is celebrated as Autism Awareness Month. But I believe that autism awareness should be promoted every single day. Autism is a group of developmental disorders characterized by difficulty in speech and language, social interaction, or restrictive and repetitive behaviors. Autism is a spectrum, meaning every person is different, just like you and me. In the United States of America, 1 in 54 children are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. However, we do not have any statistics in regards to prevalence in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, at least not as yet. There is no known cause for autism spectrum disorder, but a number of research indicates a number of factors. These factors include abnormalities in the brain structure or function, genetic or hereditary factors, and environmental influences like toxins can all contribute to the cause of autism spectrum disorder. Signs of autism spectrum disorder can be detected as early as 18 months, and many children are diagnosed by 2 or 3. Signs can include, but not limited to, delay in speech, poor eye contact, difficult dealing with changes in routine, difficulty connecting emotionally and socially with others, not responding to name by 12 months, not pointing at objects by 14 months, and repetitive behaviors like flapping or rocking. Who do you go to if your child is showing some signs or you as a parent have some concerns? Go to your developmental pediatrician, your neurologist, or your clinical psychologist. Remember, there's not any one test that can diagnose autism spectrum disorder. So a number of tests must be done as a process of eliminating other diagnoses. However, a hearing test is usually the first test to be done to ensure that there aren't any hearing impairments. There are a number of other health professionals that assist persons with autism spectrum disorder. One of those health professionals are speech language pathologists. They assess and treat communication problems as well as speech disorders. Another profession that helps with persons with autism spectrum disorder is the applied behavioral analysis, ABA therapists. Their goal really is to increase behaviors that are helpful and decrease behaviors that are harmful or affect learning. And last but certainly not least, the occupational therapist, the holistic specialist whose main goal is to facilitate the skills needed to be independent at home, school, and within the community. A is for awesome. A is for autism.
Okay, thank you, Shenika. The floor is now yours. Let's get your PowerPoint up there.
Perfect. Welcome to another episode of Wife Her Live. My name is Shenika McIntosh, and tonight is Mom's Night. Tonight, we are going to explore not just autism spectrum disorders, but we're going to explore the profession of occupational therapy and what parents or moms should be looking for in terms of developmental milestones for their children. Moving forward, who's an occupational therapist exactly? What we are healthcare professionals that have a background in a number of sciences, sociology. Our treatment and our assessment is always evidence based. So we use evidence based research and treatment in order to provide services and interventions for our clients. Our profession is over 100 years old. We've been in existence for a long time. What is so unique about occupational therapy is that we look at our clients through a holistic perspective. What does that mean exactly? There's more to you than just your body. It's about your mind, your social interaction, your home, your ability to care for others, to care for your children. So we look at all of you and how it can be affected if there was injury or disability or a disorder. And then our aim is always to promote independence in daily living skills. Moving forward. What is exactly a pediatric occupational therapist? What we do in pediatrics when it comes to occupational therapy, the first thing we look at are developmental milestones. And that is one of the things we look at when it comes to parents who express concerns. They come and they say, Ms. McIntosh, I'm concerned. My child isn't doing this or they did this late. I am a little bit concerned that they're not meeting their developmental milestones. What should we do? As an occupational therapist, I cannot diagnose. I cannot diagnose autism spectrum. I cannot diagnose anything. But what I can do is look at some of the developmental milestones, the development of the child, and see what exactly is going on and how can I facilitate development. I always tell parents, when you are concerned about developmental milestones, fine motor skills, and some of the other skills you see on the screen, is to go directly to your pediatrician. Your pediatrician, express your concerns to your pediatrician. There should be some screening in terms of a development screening. And then sometimes some parents have said to me, Miss McIntosh, I went to my pediatrician and they said, wait a few months and nothing happened after those few months. Or they said, just wait it out. And I always tell parents, I said, you are the advocate for your child. You know when something is wrong before any of our other professionals. We may have the degree, but you have the degree in knowing your own child. So sometimes you have to advocate a little bit more for those professionals, those pediatricians, to really push and maybe refer you to get a closer look or refer you for extra testing. So as an occupational therapist, remember I said we look at a client through a holistic perspective. So with a child in general, we're looking at developmental milestones, the crawling, the walking, the running, the talking, the grasping the bottle, the eye contact, the cooing. We're looking at the motor skills, your fine motor skills. Are you able to hold your bottle? Are you able to grasp your pencil? Are you able to put on your clothes? We're looking at some of those sensory motor skills, in which we'll talk a little bit later, as well as being able to recognize your letters and your numbers and getting dressed and grooming and your peer interaction and eye contact. We're looking at all parts of you, from school, home, as well within the environment. Moving forward. OT and autism. So I may have a client or a child that comes to me who've been newly diagnosed with autism. And one of the things I address the parents first, not necessarily the child, because I find a lot of times parents they're overwhelmed with the diagnoses. They are overwhelmed in trying to find resources that they need, especially in the Bahamas. And I always like to be very, very careful in comparing the resources we have here in the Bahamas versus the United States and elsewhere. And I know it's so much easier to find stats and resources based in the US, but I like to bring it home because we live home. And I always have to tell parents, there are resources out there. Take a breath. Yes, your child has recently got diagnosed, but let's appreciate it's not the end of the world. Let's appreciate your child for who they are first. For Johnny, for being Johnny, his quirks, his strengths, his weaknesses, the love and the joy that he brings to your life. Let's see the child first, and then we deal with the skills that he has difficulty with that may come with the autism. So we're looking at Johnny as Johnny, but we're just trying to give him or facilitate the skills that he needs in order to be independent, despite being diagnosed or not. That is the goal, to maintain or to gain independence. Independence is whatever independence is for little Johnny, for little Sarah. What I also want to mention that was not mentioned in the video previously is that autism is found far more times in boys than in girls. So you have a lot of our boys being diagnosed. Unfortunately, in the Bahamas, we don't really have a set statistics. There was a disability forum or screen that we did many years ago that was submitted to the World Health Organization, but it did not specify autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, or any other of the diagnoses as a disability. It just kind of clumps everything in one. So we truly do not have really good stats on autism here in the Bahamas. But what's so unique is that you have occupational therapy. There are not many of us, but there's still enough of us with a wealth of knowledge that can help you and guide you, your family, as well as your child into this new community and environment of being supported as the child seek to gain the skills to be independent within their community. We're looking at social interaction, which is very, very important for most kids on the spectrum. Let me just say, not every kid is the same. It is a spectrum. So one child can have major impairment in language skills, and then can be fairly okay with fine motor skills, and then have some serious sensory skills. Each child is different. I believe it was Dr. Stephen Shore that says once you've met one person with autism, you've just met one person with autism. So they're not the same, and we cannot treat them the same. We treat them uniquely, just like as an every individual. So we treat Johnny for Johnny, Sally for Sally, and not every single intervention fits. It's not a one for all. Every intervention, every plan of care, every treatment is uniquely tailored to the skills that we want to develop in that person. OT and autism. We're definitely looking at self-help skills. Self-help skills are those skills that we need daily. The hygienic skills, the grooming, the dressing. In order for our parents always come to me and they're like, Miss McIntosh, I want my child to be able to go to school and write. But I'm like, who's going to get him dressed? How is he bathing? He needs to brush his teeth in order to go to school. We have to practice dental hygiene. We have to comb my hair. Even for our older kids, and which I'll get into in a bit, you have to learn how to put on deodorant and other grooming in order to go to school to work on handwriting. So those are one of the first steps we tend to overlook, but they are very, very important. Attention and concentration. Are you even aware of your environment, aware of what's going on? So we look at all of these type of skills because we know that combining them all really makes a holistic person, really makes who you are. You need the interaction, you need the cognitive skills, you need the social emotional skills, as well as those life skills in order to be as independent as you can within the community. Moving forward. So let's talk about the OT process. The OT process is usually either a referral or a parent who comes in with a concern and just wants a screener. We do an evaluation. It can be standardized, but I'm really, really tuned in on observation within their environment, as well as observation with peers, brothers, sisters, cousins at home, at school, because you get a better idea of what's happening, right? We get a better idea of what type of skills that needs to be developed a little bit more, not quite ready as yet. And then we discuss with the parents and children who are able to participate in their plan of care. What is important to you? What is it that you want to do? I had a little boy, his mom wanted him to really work on handwriting because she's pushing handwriting in order to go into a particular school. And I asked him, like, what is it that you really want to do? Because you're not interested in this handwriting. What is meaningful to you? And he said, Miss McIntosh, I really just want to open up my Doritos. I'm having issues open up my Doritos. And we worked on his fine motor skills. We work on his grasp. And we work on his strength in order for him to open up his Doritos and eat. That was meaningful to him. It was meaningful for him to open up his snacks and be able to eat his snacks. And sometimes we have to kind of stray away from what the parents want, and a lot of times actually, and really say to the client, especially if they're older or teenagers, what is it that you want to work on? What is it that you want to do with your life? What is it that you feel you're struggling with and you want me to help you to be? Is it playing with a friend? Is it meeting a girl? And we don't think about that. When we look at autism, we tend to always go to early intervention, and early intervention is key. You want to work on getting your tests done. You want to work on your diagnostics. You want to work on ensuring that you get your therapies and everything in. But we fail to forget that our children then grow into teenagers. Our teenagers then grow into adults. What is the plan in terms of transitioning and all of the things that they're going to need in order to be as independent as they can in this community? So our treatment session includes a number of those skills that I mentioned earlier. And then we always have a reevaluation or a progress so that we will know if we're on the right track, if we're hitting those goals, if we need to modify, if we need to change anything. Moving forward. So our assessment looks at all of those skills we spoke about in relation to the things that you need in order to be independent in your environment, your home, and your school. Next. So specific interventions. People always ask me, well, how do you get your kids to achieve your goals? Because I'm not getting anything at home. I don't have the patience. I don't have the time. And what we have to remember is a child's play is equivalent to an adult's work. We always like to say, y'all need to sit down, y'all play too much. But that's how children learn. They learn through play. And especially children in general. Children with autism spectrum disorder, they learn through play like every other child. So especially when it comes to songs and music and routine, imitating the same things over and over, they really grasp those skills through play. So we definitely want to facilitate play because play is important. And we do facilitate play through a lot of self-care. So we would have competitions in terms of who can dress the teddy bear, who can zip the teddy bear. We work on a number of games in terms of who can put on their clothes the fastest and take it off the fastest. That will promote the skills of actually donning, putting on, and putting off your clothes. So we use play in that perspective. But I want to talk a little bit about feeding because I'm noticing that we are having a lot of issues with kids on the spectrum and feeding and eating because they're a little bit different. So with feeding, and as an occupational therapist, we look at, are you able to grasp your spoon, grasp your fork, your eating utensil? Are you able to grasp it? Are you able to, do you have the coordination, the eye-hand coordination to get your soup and put it in your mouth or your apple or whatever it is that you're eating? And are you able to chew it? And are you able to swallow it? And then we're looking at, we have a lot of concerns. A lot of parents express concerns with my child only eating certain things. They're only eating soft foods, or they're only eating this particular chip. And I'm concerned that he's gonna be malnourished and because he's not eating every single thing. And that is a problem. And it could be a sensory issue. It could be that child is having issues, some type of defensiveness, oral defensiveness with certain types of food. And sometimes we use play as well. We play in different foods. Sometimes it takes us using our hands and maybe licking certain foods that we're not used to. Maybe we have to work on the texture, start off with a new food, but maybe blend it into the texture that the child is used to. We play with maybe our fruits and vegetables, and we're building a tower, and at the top of the tower it's a grape, and we may just have to start with licking the grape or licking the cantaloupe. They may not eat it, but at least they're exploring and they're starting to get some extra sensory components within their mouth. Now, usually feeding therapy is a specialty within itself in occupational therapy as well as in speech therapy. And we have one or two occupational therapists I can think of right now that does a really, really good job when it comes to the feeding therapy, because that's a large concern with a lot of our parents because their children are not getting the variety of foods that they would like for them to get. So that's an area that we also work on as well. Next. Now, I'm still on self-care. I know I'm taking a little bit long with self-care, but I want to go from self-care and talk about self-care from a teenage perspective and adult perspective. As I said, we always talk about autism spectrum disorder in terms of early intervention, but our children do grow up to be teenagers, and they do grow up to be adults. When it comes to self-care, it is especially important for our parents to kind of think about your son who may have facial hair, your son who may have chest hair and have hairs in other parts of his body in which he needs to be able to groom, right? So we have to work, especially if it's a child on the spectrum that have sensory issues in regards to loud sounds, where getting their hair cut, or tactile defensiveness with a shaver or shaving cream or whatever. We have to look at that earlier on, because now we have to work on those sensory integrative skills, so that we can start to look at, as they get older, as they mature, as their hormones now start to come into play, that they're able to groom and have great hygienic skills. It's the same thing with our ladies. And I always tell parents that have children, girls who are on the spectrum, I'm like, listen, you have to start thinking about, we don't like to think about it, but our kids on the spectrum, they go through hormonal changes just like everyone else. And I really want parents of girls that are on the spectrum to kind of think ahead. When your menstrual cycle comes, does your child have the fine motor skills to open up a panty liner, a pad? Are they even aware of what's going on with their body? Can they hook and unhook a bra? Can they pull the bra down? If they are unable to do that fine motor wise and step wise in terms of cognitive skills and following directions and visual cueing and all of that, what other modifications are there in place for us to ensure that they're able to do that? Because they're going to go through the menstrual cycle. They're going to go through the hormonal changes. They're going to go through all of those teenage changes. But we have to ensure that they're able to understand what is going on with their body, and if they're able to, go ahead and make those changes, or do they need assistance? Now, we always strive for independence, but some of our children may not be totally independent. They may require an aid or some type of guidance or assistance throughout their life. And that's something we have to look at too in regards to self-care and daily routine. Moving forward. So, how do we work on self-care? We work on fine motor skills. We work on coordination, concentration, as well as adapting. Occupational therapists are the reigning champions when it comes to adaptations. We have an adaptation for a modification for everything. So as you can see at the bottom of your screen, a lot of kids nowadays have no clue how to tie their shoe, right? Because we use Velcros a lot. A lot of the sneakers and shoes have Velcro. So why are we tying our shoe? And tying our shoe is actually a great cognitive and eye-hand coordination skill. But let's not worry about that. So I'm having a number of 14, 15, and 16-year-olds who are having difficulty tying their shoe. And sometimes we aren't able to get through to them in terms of the skill. So we modify. We literally have a shoelace, a special shoelace that we thread through the shoe, and it can open. And once you push your foot in, you don't even need to tie or do anything. It stretches and it closes. I know Nike just released a very adaptable shoe where you just push your foot in and it automatically fits. There's so many modifications, because in reality, some of our kids may not be able to do some of these skills that we want them to do. So we have to modify so that there's some level of independence. There's some level of accomplishment in doing some of these skills moving forward. So sensory processing disorder. This is a big thing in regards to occupational therapy and some kids that are on the autism spectrum disorder. I have not a lot, but I have some parents who realize that there may be something going on with their child that they need to look into when they see a lot of flapping. That's very common to hear parents be like, oh, he flaps when he gets excited, or when he has to wait, he flaps, or he rocks, or he hums. So those are some signs of some type of difficulties or issues processing all of these senses around them. And normally when we think of sensory, we think of, what we taste and hear and feel and see and all of that. But, there are other components to sensory, like vestibular. Vestibular, we feel it a lot when we're in airplanes, when our air and the movement of our air and our head come together. And you see a lot of our kids who do a lot of spinning, or they do a lot of rocking, or they do a lot of jumping and rolling, because really trying to get that sensory input in order to calm their body down. They're sensory seekers. They need all of that extra sensory input to calm the body down so that they're able to focus or concentrate. You also see some of this sensory movement sometimes with kids with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And I've really been advocating, especially in our schools with our teachers, is that we try to implement some of those modifications or adaptive equipment that I told you about earlier. And it could be something as simple, especially in a lower grade level, like a grade 1 or a grade 2 or a kindergarten, for kids who need that extra movement. I always encourage teachers to have movement throughout their lessons. Head and shoulders, knees and toe. That kid on the spectrum or with ADHD, have them take the books, give the books, collect the books, erase the board, do all of that. But be also open and willing administrators, school administrators, parents, to have maybe a ball chair where a child, he may be bouncing, and I have teachers say, but that's so distracting. But he's doing your work. He's doing your work. He's bouncing on that chair ball, but he's writing. He's completing his assignment because he's getting that sensory input that he needs in order to focus and in order to concentrate. I have some kids that have like fidgets on their pencil, and whenever they get ready, they would fidget on that pencil, and then they would get back to work. So there are a number of you can tie a TheraBand on the chair, and they can be kicking the TheraBand on the chair, but they're focusing and they're concentrating. But it's a modification to their environment. So those are persons who they're sensory seekers. They need extra sensation in order to calm that body down, to calm that brain down, so that they could focus and do whatever needs to be done. We also have sensory avoidance. So sensory avoidance would be what I spoke about a little bit with, picky eaters. Not a lot of parents, but some parents also have the concern with their child walking on toes. And I know sometimes you have to be a little bit creative, especially with our toe walkers. They would walk on their toes in the house on the tile. And I remember one particular kid, it was his favorite toy. I think it was a dinosaur or something, like a dinosaur that moves. And he only did toe walking. So what I would do is just add the extra sensory input. I took his favorite toy and I put it in the room where there was carpet. And he was able to walk in there. He felt the extra sensory. He put his foot down a little bit. Then I took the toy and I put it out on the patio where there was textured tiles. And he went there and we started to see his foot going down a little bit, just exposing him to a little bit extra sensory. And then we took the toy and put it out in the grass. That took a long time for him to actually go out in the grass. But providing those sensory input, those deep pressures to the ankle, that would help them to just get used to adapt, to get the sensation that they need in order to walk flat on their foot. You have kids that sometimes put their hands over their ears because there's so much noise going on. It's very, very difficult for them to kind of silence the noise that's going on and to focus. So it bothers them. So all of that we work on with sensory integration. Moving forward. Keep calm. Stop. Keep calm. Take a sensory break. So taking a sensory break, moving forward, a lot of the times what we use in occupational therapy next are sensory diets. Sensory diets literally have nothing to do with food. Even though we use the word diet, it doesn't have anything to do with food. It is individualized, which I love because every kid is different. And sometimes kids have different sensory needs in terms of oral, and then they have different tactile sensory needs. They have different auditory sensory needs. There are so many different components going out there. So it has to be individualized. And what they are techniques. These are little things that we implement at home, at school, whatever environment your child is in, so that they can get the sensory input, meet that sensory threshold so that they're able to function in whichever way or capacity they can in that environment. Moving forward. So some examples of sensory diet. I've actually used the chewing gum and chewing on items, sensory toys that can be worn as a necklace or a nice little bracelet. For some of my kids, that would be chewing on their shirt or chewing on clothing. We're just giving them something else to chew, and we work on a lot of crunchy foods so that they could get all of that oral motor, that sensory input that they need in their mouth to stop chewing on their clothes or shoes. Being by chairs work well, music works well, trampoline. It all depends on what is the child's sensory need. So these 3 or 4 or 5 different things that are done throughout the day at home, through school. I find it beneficial to do sensory activities if we're going to do a sit-down task at home or at school, to do some movement, because it helps the child to concentrate a little bit longer before we sit down. So that normally works as well. Moving forward. Handwriting. This is a big thing I get from teachers and children. I want my child to write their name. Okay. It's not as easy as holding a pencil, holding a crayon, and just writing your name. Oh, their muscles are weak. It could be. I always remind parents and teachers, I always kind of remind them, remember when we were in kindergarten and preschool, and we played in Play-Doh, and we had glue stick on us, and we tore paper and we glue it, and we had good fine motor skills by the time we were ready to write? That's what we need to be doing. We've lost that within our schools. We've lost the whole arts and craft and really strengthening those hands. We're pushing pens and crayons and pencils into our children's hand before their hand is physically developed to hold a pencil, a crayon. You have to develop the intrinsic and extrinsic muscles of the child's hand. You have to develop coordination, eye-hand coordination, before you even get to holding a pen or a pencil. We have to go through the prerequisites of handwriting skills. You have some kids who say they're doing handwriting and their attention are elsewhere. You're writing, but your eyes are somewhere else. You have to be able to work on the focus and concentration, work on the grasp, work on building those muscles, building that eye-hand coordination, building those visual motor skills, trying to copy off the board and letter recognition, before we really, really push handwriting. And I find that so important. We are really, really losing the foundation of developing those motor skills before we push all of these other academic skills. I would also like to add, what I am really noticing is that we're pushing a lot of academic skills and we're neglecting the social interaction, we're neglecting the self-care, and we're neglecting the communication skills within our children that are very, very young. We're just pushing, I need you to know your ABC, I need you to do this, I need you to write. Yeah, but he's writing, but he's still not potty trained and he's 5. We need well-rounded children. We need children who are able to have, be developed in all areas of their lives and not just academic. And I always tell parents, there are developmental milestones for a reason, right? And we should not be pushing our children, especially those who are already having issues, pushing them beyond their developmental level. We have to nurture, we have to guide, we have to facilitate those skills before we can move on to some of those higher learning skills. Moving forward. So, occupational therapy really deals with therapeutic activities. So we do a lot of therapeutic activities, a lot of therapeutic exercise through play, through sensory play, through modifications, through neurodevelopment techniques that we've learned in order to get some of the grasp or other skills that we need for higher learning or for higher development and growth moving forward. So these are just some pictures. I always tell parents, start with puzzles. Puzzles are great. Blocks are great for fine motor skills, for eye-hand coordination, for visual perceptual skills. Lacing cards are great. Putting pegs or anything in a hole is great for those tripod grasps needed to hold a pencil or a crayon, for those pincher grasps needed to button and to tie shoelaces, to open up knob, to put the earring in your ear, to put your hair in a bun or in a twisty. You need all of those skills, and these are some of the basic, especially for the younger persons. School readiness. So we look at school readiness. You have a number of occupational therapists pre-COVID that would go into the school. And we have a conversation with administration. We have a conversation with teachers. We do observation. And we try to facilitate the best environment, the optimal environment for a child with autism spectrum disorder or any other issues or diagnoses. The optimal environment for their learning. And their learning, remember, we all learn differently. Some of us are kinesthetic, some of us are visual. We all learn differently. But we want to ensure that the school is also modified and prepared so that we can make the right environment for our children to learn. And part of school readiness, as I said, we have to work on attention and concentration. We're looking at interacting with peers, going to the bathroom, some of those self-care skills like potty training, those cognitive skills, especially those executive functioning skills that I am noticing that we're having issues with, mainly with our, I'm seeing it from kids are 8 and up. We're having issues with those executive functioning skills, task initiation. So the teacher could say, okay, we've done this lesson. This is what I need you to do. I need you to write this off the board. And the kid is there just kind of looking. Would you say again, teacher? They're having a difficulty just going ahead and just starting the task. Even though they hear it, they just don't know where to start. I don't know what she want. We're having issues with children with organizing. There's so much going on in their brain. They don't know, this is what I need to do first. This is what I need to do second. Organizing and prioritizing. So those executive functioning skills are important. We need to work on routines at home. That helps with some of the executive functioning skills. In regards to chores, if you make a mess in your room, I need you to go ahead and put all your toys in the basket. Okay, John, it's your time to wash or your time to dry off the dishes. We need to start implementing chores because those chores kind of help with the routine, with the task initiation, with the planning, with the organizing. Those things help. Moving forward. So I believe this is one of my last slides. I want to spend a little bit more time. I know I'm moving quickly, but I know time is of the essence. Life skills, work skills, education. I'm talking to my parents that have older children because I feel as if you're neglected. I feel as if you've been in this struggle for a long time and you've really not been given the attention that you need to get. And I am dedicating this slide and this couple of minutes just for you. I think it's important for every parent to kind of have in their mind, what is it that you want, what type of life, what type of awesome quality of life you want your child to have. In the case you are not there, in the case of family members not being there, what is it that you want them to be able to do? Or have you set up what's going to happen in an event if you are not there, especially if your child requires assistance straight into adulthood. We need to look at transitional programs. There are some programs in terms of life skill programs within our government schools. I know Stapleton has had a really good life skills program, and they teach, persons how to catch the bus and work skills and all of that. Because some of these children with autism spectrum disorder, they're able to go to work. They're able to go to tertiary education. They're able to go to the University of the Bahamas. They're able to go to university in the US. And it doesn't even have to be a special needs tertiary education. And I think sometimes we limit our children. We limit them. And a lot of times they would really excel and progress if we give them the opportunity, if we give them the skills, if we ensure that they are prepared to face life. So therefore, we need those transitional programs, okay? From school into work and living is totally different. So what do we have in place now that you've graduated from whatever school? Right? What is it that you're going to do? Are you going to go to BTVI to learn a skill, University of the Bahamas to become a teacher? Are you going to go to the US? Are you going to go to the UK? What is it that they're able to do and what they can do? And how are we going to facilitate that transition? So I need us to really think about that. Some of our kids with autism spectrum disorder, I am telling you, if we create the environment for them to thrive, they will excel. But we have to give them that opportunity and we have to work on it early. We also have to face that some of our kids are going to need assistance straight into adulthood. And it may be lifelong assistance. You have some kids who will go off to college and who will get married and who would have children. And then you have some who would need a little bit more help, a little bit more guidance. So you have to now start to think, who is going to give them that guidance? What is going to happen? I really would love to have an assisted living facility for kids with a number of disabilities, especially autism spectrum disorder. I think that is such an awesome idea, to just have an apartment complex with apartments. And they're able to go to work and they're able to catch the bus and pay for their rent and just function. That would be so great, because I believe some of our kids are able to do that. And I spoke about work versus tertiary education. Our kids could go to work. And I really believe if we as a community and we as business entrepreneurs would give our children a chance, they are the best workers. Once you get them in that routine, you're not going to have any employee talk them. I promise you that. And part of working is communicating, whether it's verbal, nonverbal. We have to put our children in positions. If a speech therapist is recommending assistive device for communication, use that assistive device when you go on Wendy's drive-thru, when you go wherever you go, so that they could practice communicating. We're also advocating for acceptance. And persons aren't going to accept if they're not being exposed to what's going on, if they're not aware of what's going on. So if they've never seen anybody use an assistive device to communicate, it's foreign to them. So if we expose the community, if we really show the community what persons with autism spectrum disorders can do and how they have awesome lives and how they're unique and wonderful people, then we would get the acceptance. But we have to do it. We have to expose, and that's part of education and awareness. What we also need to look at, is developing, as I said, understanding what it is that child is able to do. Are they able to go to work? Communication is a big part. Socialization, community reintegration, and mobility. Are they able to catch the bus? Are you going to be dropping them? All of those things you have to kind of look at. And then, as I said, community integration and mobility. I find that we keep our kids home a little bit too much. Pre-COVID, we're talking pre-COVID now. Why can't they go to your nephew's birthday party? Why can't they go to the grocery store? Why can't they go to the bowling alley? And I understand our kids may have some sensory issues, and I understand a number of other issues, but could we just get a plan where we could work on that? Can we take them out rather than keeping them at home? And I think that's something we need to work on. We really need to look at some of those life skills. Take our kids. I remember I have a number of kids that we've done. I did advocacy, education, and intervention all in one. We were working on counting using money. And he wasn't able to identify $5 and $10, but he was able to count in $1 bills. And he liked a particular snack. and we took a picture of the snack, and I went in the grocery store, took a picture of the snack where it's located, took a picture of the aisle number, and we wrote down our list because we got incorporated some handwriting in there. And he went into the store. I guided him. It took a number of tries, a number of practices, and I guided him so he could go ahead and get whatever he needed. And we went to the cash register, you know, and he was taking a little bit long to count his money, which is fine. He was giving eye contact and everything. And there was a gentleman behind me who said, I don't want to, he kind of remembered, I don't understand why, we have these retarded children out there. And, I had to breathe a little bit before I responded. And I was like, what, this is a great opportunity. And I said, retarded is not a word that we would like to use to describe anybody. That's not cool, right? And I said, he's a child who is learning how to buy his groceries, and he needs a little bit more time. And if you are in a rush, sir, there are many other cashiers that you could go to. And I looked at the kid, I was like, take your time. If you need to start over, honey, start over and count your dollar bills. We did that about 3 times in that particular grocery store. And every time we came back, one of the cashiers would be, oh my gosh, he got better. He gave me eye contact twice. And he didn't mess up when he counted his dollar bills. And they started to accept him. And one of the ladies was like, I didn't even know children like this could do that. I didn't even realize they were able to function. And that's advocacy. And that is awareness. And that's acceptance. And that is life skills. And most importantly, it's independence. Next slide. Moving forward. So, I know I crammed a lot. I can take 2 and 3 hours just talking about autism spectrum disorder and occupational therapy, but we started a little late, and I really apologize for that. We were having some technical difficulties, but I want to leave you with some resources. Reach is almost like the spokesperson for persons on the spectrum and other related disorders. And they have a wealth of information in regards to support groups for parents. And they're able to kind of guide you as to where you need to go and who you need to go to, either to get diagnostics or either to receive therapeutic services or to receive some type of support as a parent going through the whole process. It's about the child with autism spectrum disorder, but it's also about the family, because there are a lot of changes, especially for a mother or a father. It's a lot going on in your mind, but they're there to help you, and they're there to tell you it's okay. It's a rough path, but it's okay, and you have support. The Ministry of Education Special Services Unit, it's good to start with. They do have a speech therapist there. I don't know what the wait list or the wait time is, but they do have speech therapy there through Ministry of Education. They also help with enrolling your child. They do their own assessments, and they're able to enroll your child if they need a special education, a school that has a special education unit or offers special education. I am all for inclusion. I believe some of our kids can go into a regular class, mainstream, with just a few modifications. As I said, every child is different. Not every child can do that. And I really want to push for that as well. And even helping our teachers, shout out to our special ed teachers that go above and beyond. But the Ministry of Education is really, really good in terms of trying to place children in an education program. No child is denied in the Bahamas. They cannot deny any child. It doesn't matter if whatever the diagnosis is, no child is denied education in this country. So go for it. The Health Professions Council. The Health Professions Council will give you a list of registered and licensed therapists in the Bahamas. Now, in order to work in the Bahamas, you have to go through credentialing. You have to go through screening. So make sure that your therapist is registered and licensed in the Bahamas, and you can find that out or verify that through the Health Professions Council. If you need some more information, you could also go through the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. If I missed any other resource, please, please, please drop in the comments so persons could see. But there are many other resources there in the Bahamas. One thing I want to say before closing is that I am a proud Abaconian. I am from the great island of Abaco. And I really, really hope in the future that we're able to offer resources to our family of islands. I always tell people, I'm a little hurt as an Abaconian because everything is here. All of the therapists, all of the resources are here in New Providence. And what about our family islands? What about Abaconians and Grand Bahamians and Eleutherians and Long Islanders and all of our other family islands? And I really, really hope maybe someone who's on this broadcast is in lawmaking or is in have the power or the authority to really maybe let's sit down and let's figure out how we can get some of these resources to the family islands as well. I know the resources are limited, but with the technology that we have, we should be able to do something so that we're able to help our parents, help our children, especially those on the autism spectrum disorder, and to really help our country to be a better country for quality of living and independence within our community. My name is Shenika McIntosh. I'm an occupational therapist as well as a certified autism specialist, and A is for autism. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much, Ms. McIntosh. I learned so much with watching your presentation. It was so beautifully put together. Thank you so much. And I agree with you. I hope we get the resources to our families. I also love that idea of the assisted living. I thought that was amazing. And I hope we really can get that in the Bahamas. Now, for anyone viewing, Ms. McIntosh has some time to take a few questions. If you have any questions for her, please post them now. Let's take advantage of this wealth of knowledge that we have and this passion. Thank you for all that you do, Ms. McIntosh. I mean, your passion definitely shows as you were speaking. We all could see how passionate you are about what you do. And I could tell that's a calling. So thank you so much for what you do. If anyone has any questions, now is the time while we have this McIntosh at our fingertips. Someone's saying there's feedback. I'm not sure. Post any questions. I'll post the comments here. We have something very well together. Ms. McIntosh, you got a lot of fans on here, Ms. McIntosh.
Oh, I do.
Who said they're friends?
Hi, friends.
Can you put your any contact information if anyone has any questions for you?
Can I leave that in the comment section?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll put that in there.
Okay.
Or better yet, you can go to my page, Occupational Therapy Consulting Services, and then you can, all my information is there, and you can contact me there as well.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, we have one question for you.
How do I get my child to stop throwing himself on the floor and how to get him to stop banging his head? So it's he's 7. It sounds like there may be a combination of things going on. It sounds like it may be behavior. It sounds like it may be sensory. So the first thing is to pretty much get an assessment. I don't know if you've gotten an assessment, and that would kind of let us know what's going on. It could be behavior. It could be sensory. It could be a combination of both. Especially with the head banging. Is it because he's not getting something that he wants? Is it because he gets frustrated and that's what he does to calm his body down? So we have to kind of figure out what the cause behind the throwing on the floor and the head banging. Occupational therapists, we work along with ABA therapists, and they're very good with behavior management. And we do more of the sensory part of it. And sometimes we have to collaborate and come up with a plan for children who may be exhibiting these behaviors. So we have to figure out what the cause of the behavior is first in order to address it. Occupational therapy something insurance providers cover. So occupational therapy isn't under the medical arena. So it is something that most insurance companies cover. They do. I am from Jamaica. How can we get in touch with you to do a session with parents? Um, so you can always go on my page, Occupational Therapy Consulting Services, and then we can get in contact there. As vice president of the Association of Caribbean Occupational Therapists, I know about 3 occupational therapists in Jamaica. So if you want to do a collaboration between a Jamaican occupational therapist as well as myself, that is something we can also work on. But I do know about 3 occupational therapists in Jamaica, and I would gladly provide that information for you if you also want to take a look at that. My son, he keeps spinning his toys. So remember when I said in the video, the initial video, is that repetitive or restrictive behaviors or inappropriate play with toys? That is one of the signs of autism spectrum disorder. So it's a repetitive behavior over and over and over and over and over. They aren't aware or don't know how to play with a toy. So instead of driving a car or doing other stuff with a car or a truck, they would spin or they would just do the same things over and over and over and over and over. So that's something that we also work on. But that is it's a repetitive behavior. So that is one of the signs of autism. I'm not saying that he has it, but that is one of the symptoms of autism, that repetitive behavior. I am very concerned about the weight my son is gaining. He vomits when he tries to eat fruits and vegetables. I have gotten him to eat air fried chicken. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful when we're working with feeding because we don't want to force our children to feed. Then they shut down or they regurgitate. You sound like you definitely need to work along a feeding specialist, or you need to contact an occupational therapist to kind of help you guide you through a sensory diet or some type of plan to help your child in eating and exploring new foods and to stop with the regurgitation because that's not a good thing. So we don't want to ever force our children to eat anything. We don't force because we want food to be a healthy thing and a good thing. We don't want it to be looked at as a negative thing. So you definitely want to contact a feeding therapists and occupational therapists to help you and guide you through that.
Okay, Miss Shenika, it looks like Nicola had a question, but it seems like you answered this one already about the resources in Jamaica.
So there are about 2 or 3 occupational therapists in Jamaica. If you hit me up via Occupational Therapy Consulting Services, I can forward that information to you. I know that they would be more than happy to help you, and if they cannot help you, they can direct you into the area or the person who will help you or who can help you.
Okay. And Ms. McIntosh, you can let me know if you want me to keep going or one more.
Maybe one more question. Okay. We're having a lot of questions from Jamaica. Hey, Jamaica, shout out.
I know.
To the land we love, shout out. As I said, contact me and I can connect you to occupational therapist in Jamaica.
Okay. Alrighty. Oh, Miss Gibson says this is the Bahamas here.
No, we welcome everybody. No, we are all in this together.
I think
one people.
For her question. Oh. She says her son moans. And
I think I need a little bit more information with that. He is praiseworthy, Gibson. I think I need a little bit more information. Contact me and I can assist you with some resources and some information, whether it's in occupational therapy or ABA therapy. We can assist you with that, but it's okay. All right, one more, and then I know it's getting late. Oh, I love teachers. Hi. I have a 5-year-old student who is very active in the classroom. He doesn't like loud noise, but he likes to be loud. That is quite common. How do I work with that? Okay, is he loud just during work? Is he trying to avoid the work? Is he loud just in talking or making noise? When is he loud? And sometimes I find it helpful if you, as I said, add movement throughout your lessons, not to point the kid out. So everyone moves. Let him be a little bit more active, or he may need just some type of sensory intervention, like something on his desk that could provide the sensory input, and then he goes back to work. Especially if he is very active. Movement helps with kids that are active, and maybe that would alleviate some of the noise. We need to know why he's loud and when he's being loud, because that can give us an understanding if it's avoidance behavior in doing something, or he's not even aware of him being loud and disrupting the class. So, but definitely try some movement breaks, and maybe that should help us, some type of sensory intervention with movement. Visual cards may also be helpful. And talking about when you're inside your classroom voice and when you have your playground voice. So when you're in your class, you have to speak be very calm in your speaking and not very loud so I can understand what you're saying. And when you're out in the playground, you can be loud and you can have fun and you can shout. But when you're in the classroom, in order for us to understand, in order for us to play and do our work, you have to be quiet. This is me being quiet. And this is loud. Oh no, loud hurts my ears. Let's be quiet. And maybe imitate that. And maybe use visual cards of when you're too loud, bring it down. So there are a number of strategies you could use there, but we need to kind of find out why. Why is he loud? Is it an avoidance, or is it just him not being aware of what's going on? Is it a sensory issue? I don't know. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, Miss McIntosh, I think that was it. That was the last question quota. Again, let me post your contact information because everyone has questions for you, and we're never going to let you go to bed if we don't if we don't get this up. So thank you for everyone for watching us with our latest Wife Her Live. Thank you, Ms. McIntosh, for taking the time to share your wealth of knowledge with us. We do not want to take you for granted. We apologize as well for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning, and we hope that you guys will join us next time. Ms. McIntosh information is on the screen. That is the name. I'm sure you could find her. Are you on Facebook, Ms. McIntosh? Is your company on Facebook?
I tag my page right now.
Okay.
In the comments. There you go.
All right. So there we are. Thank you so much. And we are out.
Thank you. Have a great night.